Hi, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have a full review of the CMF Watch Pro, which I have it here and I've been testing it, so let's get started. This smartwatch comes with an interesting proposal because CMF is a brand of nothing that has a very particular essence in design, so that is what will draw the most attention. But before we continue talking about it, let me tell you about its price. In Mexico, it has been launched at a price of $1,199. On the screen, you see the reference price in dollars, although remember that the prices here are not the same as there. The exchange rate is very unstable. However, it is positioned as a not-so-expensive alternative for those looking for a smartwatch with an attractive design, especially at the level of covers that we will see later. For now, let's start by talking about the design of this watch that, as you realize, is of a square format. It has a regular glass with slightly curved edges to give it a different touch to the reflections, but it is not a glass challenged or with any additional protection. The back is designed in plastic, so let's say it's not overly comfortable to wear, but I wouldn't say it's an uncomfortable watch either. On the sides, we will find an aluminum alloy case, very nice to look at. On the right side, we find its only button that is going to be quite simple, just to turn on the screen or to return to the main screen. In this case, it has a thickness of 12.9 millimeters, so it is quite thick, and considering that it is a watch, let's say simple in terms of functionality, yes, it is perceived as a little rough. We found some bands designed in silicone with some CMF badges. Yes, they are interchangeable with a clasp that is not so simple due to the relief that has the back cover, so it can be a little difficult to reach that little clasp, but it does have interchangeable straps. Speaking of resistance, we will find the IP level of water resistance, so you could wash your hands without worries, but in fact the manufacturer does not recommend neither that you get to bathe with it nor that you get into the sea or the pool. Although by this level it could resist, but it is recommended that you only immerse it in shallow and pure water. So if you want the watch to have a longer life, it is advisable to remove it when you are going to do water activities. In fact, the device in its interface does not include a water mode or something similar, unlike other watches. And in addition to this option I have in silver color, it is also available in white, black and orange. So it stands out that you have several options to buy. The screen is 1.96-inch OLED display. It's a really big screen. In fact, that's why the watch itself looks like a little bit of a bigger, clunky watch. But you definitely have a lot of space, and it's also a screen with a very good level of detail, as its resolution is 410 by 502 pixels. Giving a pixel density of 330 pixels per inch, so I'm telling you that even small text is going to look sharp. You're not going to be able to make out the pixels very easily. And obviously, being an OLED display, it offers intense colors, very high contrast, and the peak brightness is 600 nits, which should be enough to still see the content comfortably under sunlight. In this case, since we are talking about brightness, it does not incorporate automatic brightness, so simply through the quick settings panel you can move the brightness in 5 different levels, but everything you will have to adjust manually. The screen is really very good and can be enjoyed a little more with always on display, although in this case you should know that the always on dial will not be equivalent to the dial you have assigned on your watch. However, there are several options you can choose for this always-on cover, and also has this same design line of CMF by nothing, where we will find red accents which honestly look good, only I would like the always-on cover to be equivalent to the cover you are using on the main screen to have a more consistent experience. Obviously, we will also find the function so that when you turn the wrist up, the screen turns on, although in reality it is a gesture that you can enable or disable completely to your liking. And obviously, to have a longer battery life, it would be advisable to have this activation gesture disabled. Regarding the sound, specifically talking about music, it will only work as a Bluetooth playback control, so you can control the music from your cell phone, from the watch, to go to the next, previous, change the volume and the like. And curiously, it does include microphone and speaker for calls, so that aspect is very good because for this price it is excellent news to be able to answer calls directly from your wrist. Even something that caught my attention is that it has access to the voice assistant. Obviously, it will be the voice assistant that you have default on your cell phone, so you are completely dependent on your cell phone in that aspect, and the watch will serve as a kind of interface. Although in my case, the voice response sounds on the cell phone and not on the watch, so it is not as advanced experience. In health monitoring, we will find the basics. It is going to monitor us, for example, the steps we are taking in the day, the approximate kilometers traveled, the calories we have burned, and the time we have been active. The watch makes good use of the screen space to show all this information in a very graphic way and with good space. It will also be able to measure your heart rate and even shows a very nice graph and tells us how much time we have spent in different stages of heart rate. So it is considerably good and advanced monitoring, although it is not able to notify you when your heart rate is too high or too low. And the sleep monitoring is also considerably advanced because in addition to telling you your total sleep time, it's also going to tell us the different stages, including REM phase, so you can have a detailed report of how you've been sleeping. It also includes blood oxygen saturation monitoring, although it comes disabled by default to not consume so much battery, but obviously if you want to have access to this information, you can enable this monitoring to be done automatically. However, as I say, by default it is only monitored manually. And the same will happen with stress, which is another parameter that can measure, but in this case you can only access it through your application to give you the result. Obviously we will not find more advanced monitoring, but with regard to the exercises, in this case it supports 110 different modes, although not all of them appear by default in the list of the watch. But if you want to show more sports, you must configure them through the cell phone. And when you enter a sport to monitor the exercise, note that the information is also very well distributed. With CMF typography will also show us the duration of our exercise, heart rate, even the pace or distance traveled, all depending on what exercise you are doing, although it does not show graphically in what zone of your heart rate you are, if you are already burning calories and the like. You'll also notice that it's not going to give us access to the music player, something that's definitely annoying since you can't leave your workout running in the background either. You need to completely exit this workout interface to be able to manipulate anything to do with music. So that aspect I didn't like. It also doesn't have automatic exercise detection, so you have to start them all manually. And among the good points, we find that it does have GPS, so you can plot your routes directly on this watch. As for the battery life, we definitely found one of its strongest points. This obviously also goes in conjunction with its capabilities. As we have seen, it is not such an advanced watch in capabilities, but fortunately this helps the battery life, so it more or less lasts about 13 days with a typical and simple use with the default settings. If you enable more monitoring tools, obviously this is going to drop a little bit, but it's still a very good autonomy that could exceed 10 days even. And if you enable the saving mode included, it can extend up to 45 days of use, but obviously in this saving mode we will not have monitoring of any kind. So it is a watch that stands up very well in battery life. In charging speed, not so much. You get to understand somehow because it's not a watch that you're going to have to be charging every day. And in my test I had it fully discharged, and with 15 minutes it recovered 16% battery, which if you translate that, I think with that 15 minutes of charging it could give you the whole full day. So that's why I insist that you don't require a faster charge. In 30 minutes it got up to 31% in my test, and the full charge I finished in just under 2 hours. So I think the recommended thing to do would be to put it on charge before the battery is completely drained, so that you don't have to wait so long for it to fully charge again. However, we are going to have a good battery life. Gianna, with regards to the software, one positive thing is that we found these nothing styled watch faces. Although we do not have more customization with respect to the information that is showing us, so they are covers that are already predefined, but I insist that there is a very good variety, all with the same design, with some points or highlights in red. There are some that are simply text, some that have additional information, but in each of them we will find a good design. In this case, there is no alternative cover store, so you depend entirely on the covers they have designed, but as I say, they are very nice. Nor are we going to find an app store or anything like that, so on the main screen we are going to find sliding to the sides quick info widgets where you can take a look at your monitoring information, plus you can also make calls directly from these widgets. If we slide from top to bottom, we access the list of quick settings where we can configure the do not disturb mode. We can turn on the flashlight that has no timer but turns on immediately. We can also control the brightness, access the power saving mode, turn off or turn on the gesture to raise the wrist, or access the full settings. If we slide from the bottom up, we can access the list of notifications, which by the way are simple notifications. It is not able to group them, so if you receive many notifications, it could become a bit chaotic. And obviously, it is not going to offer us quick responses or personalized responses or anything like that. So notification management is very simple. Consider that it is only going to let you see the notifications. In this case, definitely that could be improved. Hopefully they will update it. Pressing the side button, we access the list of applications, which by default is in list, but you could also activate a grid mode, although it only shows the icons. So I would recommend this mode only if you already learned what each of those icons means. Fortunately, they do allow us to customize how we want this list of apps to look. And in addition to the monitoring tools and others I've already told you about, in this case, we're also going to find the camera remote control, which works on Android. If you connect it to iOS devices, it won't be available. But interestingly, it does allow us to take pictures directly from the watch. It will also give us access to the weather, obviously linked to your cell phone, and it also has an application for breathing exercises. In addition to the basic tools of any watch as the stopwatch or timers and alarm, all these applications have a very nice design of CMF, so at the design level the software is very well thought out to maintain the same aesthetics and the same philosophy in conjunction with the brand. This watch also includes calculator, although it does not include the tip calculator tool, and finally it also includes the function to find your cell phone and make it ring as long as it is nearby, linked by Bluetooth. In the settings you can also choose the intensity of the vibration motor, which is quite strong, although it is also simple on the Z-axis, so it is perceived as a basic vibration. So basically that's what we find available in this watch, which I insist I think is a good complement if you want a watch that monitors the basics and a simple tool, but you want it to combine with this whole CMF ecosystem or nothing ecosystem, because they have a very similar design, so it could be a good tool, although they don't have such an advanced interaction between them yet. For now, this has been all for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, you know you can indicate it, and see you next time. Hanggang naman, hindi na obligamantan.